thud, thud of heavy footfalls came drumbeat steady from the far side of the ridge. A pair of foraging skitterworms paused. The footfalls crunched and squeaked in the fresh fall snow. They did not falter. They were getting nearer. The skitterworms stood up on their hind legs and peered round jerkily through the driving snow, heads cocked and fluted crests fluttering. Beneath their feet the ground trembled. They eyed one another for an instant, then, with short barked shrieks, darted for a crevice in the snow-crusted rocks close by and disappeared. The thudding grew louder, anchoring the free-form wail of the wind with its relentless rhythm. The hissing of the falling snow softened abruptly as the wind dropped. Above, yellow-grey clouds curdled and thinned, and a pale sun broke through. It set the dwindling display of snowflakes to sparkling and sent long shadows off across the snowdrifts. Yet there was no warmth to it. A cowled head rose up from behind a snow-capped ridge, the face lost in shadow beneath a heavy hood. Then, broad shoulders with an immense backpack strapped to them. A white lakeworm skin cape creaked as it flapped to reveal legs like tree trunks, and heavy boots that were toe-capped and laced ladder-wise to the shins. The wintercaller paused at the top of the ridge and surveyed the rocky snow scene ahead. A gloved hand emerged from the folds of the cape. It reached up and pulled the hood back, and the cold sun fell upon a bone mask that covered the face. It gleamed on the yellowed cheekbones and eye sockets and glinted in the darting black eyes beneath. With a gruff snort, the hulking figure pulled a piece of rag from a back pocket and with unlikely delicacy cupped it to the mask and breathed deeply, eyes closed. It was fainter now, the smell, but it was still there, a telltale mix of worm oil and pitch smoke and sweat soured by fear and disgust. It was a unique smell, unmistakable, and leading him on to his quarry. Find them, dig them out, dispatch them, slowly. The words of the Keldmistress echoed inside his head. Ever since he had left the underground cavern, he had heard them, urging him on through the weald of full winter in pursuit of the murderers. The wintercaller lowered the cloth and sniffed at the air, then snorted again, twists of mist coiled out of the bone nostrils. He rummaged in another pocket and drew out a handful of dried meat, which he shoved through the mouth-hole in the bone mask. He chewed mechanically, turning the meat to pulp, till his molars clamped down on something that jarred his jaws. He probed round his mouth with his tongue, seeking and finding a small, hard object, then spat it out. It was a milk tooth. It lay on the surface of the snow for a moment, pearly and unblemished, before fresh snowflakes hid it from view. He pulled the hood back over his masked face and lurched forward. The thudding drumbeat resumed. It was as he crested the next ridge he saw them. He did not stop nor break his stride. There were two of them, one taller than the other, the pair of them brown against the white, standing beside a tattered awning and broken staves. Then they saw him. The shorter one waved. It wasn't his quarry. He knew that much. They both smelled of damp buckhide and something metallic, and as the waving grew more agitated, he noticed that the shorter one's odour was laced with buttermilk. A man and a girl. They stared towards him. The girl was up front, wading thigh-deep through drifts of snow as fast as she could manage, her walking staff raised above her head. The man hurried after her, shouting out for her to watch her step, to probe for hidden cracks and crevices that might swallow her up, but ignoring his own advice. They were grinning, both of them, their gaunt faces flushed. The twitter and chirp of their eager voices grew shrill as the gap between him and them closed up. And, as they approached, the man extended a hand in greeting. "How do, stranger?" he said. "I'm truly pleased to make your acquaintance." The wintercaller stared down at the man from the shadows of the hood. He noted the raggedy beard, the sunken sparkle to his eyes, the broken crossbow at his shoulder. He said nothing, nor made a move to shake the proffered hand. The man pulled back awkwardly and brushed snowflakes from his beard. "Like I say, I can't tell you what a relief it is for us that our paths have crossed," he told him, though his voice lacked conviction. "We got separated from the convoy," the girl chipped in, "Daddy and me, on account of the bellyache I got from the bad meat." "Then the snow set in," the man added. He shook his head. "And a mountain still to climb before we make our winter lay-up. The winds destroyed the makeshift," he said, nodding back at the flapping worm-skin canopy and splintered wood. And our provisions are woeful low." He eyed the bulging backpack at the stranger's shoulders. "If you maybe had something to barter, friend? Something to share with me and my little girl here?" The figure grunted, seemingly in response, then swept back his gleaming grey cloak. He reached out with his huge gloved hands and clamped them gently to the sides of the man's head. The man looked up at him, smiling warily, trying not to react badly to this hulking stranger's unusual greeting. Beside him, his daughter stepped back uneasily. "Daddy?" she said. "It's all right, Angel," the man told her. "He don't mean no harm. Do you, stranger?" The winter caller said nothing, but steadily increased the pressure on the man's head as if he were testing a fruit for ripeness. "You let go of him!" the girl shrieked, fear gripping her as she saw her daddy's eyes bulge and turn bloodshot. Let him go!" The winter caller knocked her aside with a casual shrug that sent her sprawling to the snow-covered ground, and his hood fell back. The girl looked up and gasped at the sight of the bone mask. "Daddy! Daddy!" There was a splintering sound. Blood started to ooze between the fingers of the wormskin gloves. It spattered down onto the snow, red on white, turning pink like cherry blossom. The lifeless body slumped down upon it with a dull thump.